Well, good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to be here today because this is a topic that actually came from my own business, my own personal life, where something had to change. See, a few years ago, I was on vacation in Mexico with my wife and my daughters. And instead of being present, I remember having distinct conversations before we went to Mexico, while we were at Mexico, that I would have to step away to go and lead generate for at least 2 to 3 hours a day. Now, I set this expectation every single day and every single night, right? And the thing is my family was literally in the hotel room waiting for me to finish working so that way we could enjoy our vacation. And I remember one day going downstairs and getting myself set up, got my laptop, ready to rock and roll, started making phone calls. There's a nice, pool in front of me. There's a beach over yonder. Super nice day, super warm. Like one of those days where you can't wait to go outside to play. And as I'm making my phone call, I look up to the hotel room where my daughters and my wife were staying. And I remember thinking to myself, this can't be what success is supposed to feel like, right? Um, and here's the thing, I'm not afraid of working hard. For anybody who knows me knows I work hard, right? But I realized that my business only worked when I worked. And this was the moment that I stopped asking, how do I work more hours? And I started asking myself, how do I create a business that works even when I don't? And so today, I want to share my playbook with you on how and what it has been to be able to create more consistent close-ins without adding more hours to my schedule. See, agents don't lack effort, they lack structure. And what I mean by this is that most agents are on this will of hustle. If I hustle more, if I do more, if I grind harder, if I put in more hours, then I will get more business. And that's not actually the case. What happens is you create a schedule that is more reactive to people or things coming in than actually planning your schedule, right? And when you think that you have a busy activity, like you're trying to fit more in and you're trying to do more over here, well, that's busy work. That doesn't make your business predictable, and it doesn't allow for a predictable income as well. See, what happens is that you rely on your motivation to push you through to the next busy thing that you think will predict an income for your business. And it's all of that is a lie. Now, I'm not saying that, what you're doing is wrong. I'm just saying that there is a better way. Okay. And so I want you to understand that most agents don't have a work ethic problem. What they have is a business design problem. And that's a huge difference. And so I just want to know, has anyone ever felt like if you were to take a week and not work, would your business survive? Would it slow down? Would it still be there when you came back? Right? Uh, and so this is where we need to have a mind shift, change. Because it wasn't until that moment when I was sitting down in front of that pool with my laptop, making phone calls, looking up at that hotel room where it clicked. And I knew there was a better way. There had to be a better way. I mean, there's people out there all the time that have very successful careers. And some people run multiple businesses at once and they're still able to have a life outside of work. How does that happen? Well, one, the biggest thing that had to happen for me was I had to have a mind shift change. And what I mean by that is I had to know that I was worthy and deserving of having just as much of a good life as those other people. I had to mentally change the way that I thought, thinking that I had to hustle all the time, that if I worked harder, that the business would be better. And I think part of that was instilled in us, especially if you're older like myself, right? That the older generation believed that if you put in more hours, you put in more grind, you put in more hustle, then that gives you a better outcome. And I think we were fed a lie, okay? Because in all honesty, that's not the truth. The truth is that one, you have to believe that there's a better way. And then two, you have to commit to things that are going to help build a business. What is your infrastructure and what does that look like? Are you dedicated and committed to making that happen? See, when I was going through this, I started asking myself, what are the things that I can do once that will continue to live on, still support my business, still put me out there in front of potential clients, and still allow me to go to sleep, maybe get sick if I had to, go on vacation, take a day off to be with my kids, spend time with my wife at a romantic dinner and not have to worry about picking up my phone. See, the thing is what were the things that I needed to do in order to create this life that I wanted? And so I had to really dig deep. And what I came to was committed myself to activities such as committed to video, posted on social media, right? Videos are free. YouTube is free. Social media is free. And most agents don't utilize this correctly, understanding the power that a video has. See, most of us are trying to run to do the one-on-one conversation. And when you do video, you can do 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000, 1 to 1,000,000, depending on how good you are, right? And you don't have to be super good because even 1 to 100, if you imagine 100 people in the room, that's a lot of people, right? And that's just for starters. As you get better, your views will get better on top of it. But you're allowed now to say, I can reach one to many, right? And that's a big mind shift change right there. That is something that you can do easily. And how I did it, right, is how do I create or how do you create this ability to work less while still doing more? Well, video, you can batch create. And so for me, when I started doing this, I actually hired a photographer that, or not photographer, well, photographer and videographer that would come up to Washington State. They would spend a day filming me, okay? Literally a day. And we would probably shoot 30, 40, 50 videos all in the same day. I would have several different changes of clothes and we would have topics, we would do things, and they weren't all educational based. I need you to understand that because people like people and they want to work with you when they like you. Okay. So we did stuff on my family, we did stuff on myself, we did stuff on the market, we did stuff on tips and tricks and made it all together. So that way, when those videos were done and I got them, all I had to do was load them up and push click to make it go. Now, I think that's pretty simple. But the thing that I had to understand is when I first started doing video, I didn't understand the consistency matters, just like everything else, right? And as you're learning something new, then you realize like, oh, snap, I need to be consistent. And so the consistency is always the hard part. When you can batch create, that's huge, right? But how does that happen? Well, it happens because you put a time block into your calendar. Now, whether you can afford a videographer or not, you still want a time block in your calendar, at least a couple hours a week to be able to batch create content so that way it's done for the week ahead. Like, even if you just do 2 videos a week, that's better than probably what most of you are doing right now. And just remember that one video can speak to hundreds, thousands of people. Is it worth it? 1000%. I'm not going to tell you anything that I'm not doing myself. I promise you that. Okay. When you're creating content by yourself and you're trying to figure out, you're like, oh my gosh, I have this video. It's a great idea. And then you're like, well, now I have to edit. No, no, you don't. There are AI tools out there that allow you to clip your videos. You can literally put the entire video in there. It will clip it into 30 seconds, 45 seconds, minute clips if you want. It'll also create a hook for you. It'll create the captions, and all of this is done in a matter of minutes. Now, that's how you can use AI to help you create and do batch content for video. And you no longer need an editor. You don't have to hire that out. If this is something that you can do, why not do it? Okay. And then while you're building all of this, one of the things I also decided to change last year, that I added to my business was I took about 6 weeks. Normally, it's one of my busiest times that I'm super busy. It's the winter months when nobody likes to work. I normally work when everybody else doesn't, and I get to pick up a ton of clients. Well, last year I decided that I am not going to do that. Now you're probably thinking, why? You're crazy, Lani. Well, sometimes taking a step backwards so that way you can take 1,000 steps forward means more. And yes, it did take income out of my pocket at that time, and I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Um, and it was a little stressful. I'm not gonna lie about that either. But what I decided to do was I built a blog site from scratch. And during those 6 weeks, I wrote over 300 blogs. 300 blogs. I was up super early in the morning, up super late at night, working while everybody was sleeping, working before God knows, probably most of you were maybe awake or not awake, right? And I built out this blog site. And now, 90 days later, um, I'm showing up, my team is showing up in AI searches, which was the whole goal. And so, again, the question was to myself, how do I build something once that will continue to work for me even when I'm not? Now, and I really want you to ask yourself too, what is it that you can build once that will continue to work for you when you're sleeping, when you're on vacation, when you're spending time with your family, when you want to go watch the soccer game, right? I think this piece matters the most to me because for those of you who know me, my family means everything to me. Showing up for my team means everything to me, right? And if I'm too busy trying to run and chase deals or chase clients, then I'm being reactive and I'm not putting in and using my time to the best of my energy or to the best of my ability, right? We only have a finite amount of time every single day. And being a mom of 2 toddlers, let me tell you, almost 2 and 3.5, I am in the thick of it, right? And so when I come home, my kids are running to me. They want me to play with them. They want to play tag. They want to eat pretend ice cream. They want me to run around the house. And for those of you who know, if you're a busy agent, when you come home, you still have work to do, right? Because maybe you just got done with a showing. Maybe you need to write an offer. Maybe you are negotiating a deal. And all of that matters, but so does your family. And to me, I don't want my kids to remember me always working, always being on the phone. I want them to remember me playing tag, taking them out, doing a nightly walk, giving them their baths, reading them a nighttime story, because all of this matters. Being a parent, I think, really changed how I do my business. Now, before I was a parent and before when I got into real estate, I remember lead generating at least 3 hours a day, right? And I would lead generate and uh I didn't have much to go off of. Okay. I learned everything the hard way. Not because I wanted to, but just because I had to. And so when I was lead generating, I would come and I would talk to these clients and they would give me an objection. And as they gave me an objection, I remembered thinking like, oh my God, how am I going to respond to this? What am I going to do? What am I going to say? I need to think of something. And as I'm going through all of these thoughts in my head, the client's still speaking. I don't hear anything else because I'm too busy trying to figure out how do I respond to said objection. So I have an objection, don't know how to respond, trying to think of something. I'm not fully listening. And so then when I do set the appointment with the client, for some reason, they set an appointment with me. Well, guess what happened? Most of those appointments ghosted me or didn't show up. So now I spent time lead generating, trying to get appointments that didn't show up. And can you imagine how frustrating that is if you have back to back and back appointments in your head on your calendar and not one of them show up? Do you know how disappointing and frustrating and what a letdown that can be and how that can mess with you mentally, right? Uh, we all know that this drunk monkey can sit on our shoulders and be like, what are you doing? Are you even good enough? Should you even be doing this at all? Right? And so when something like that happens, something needs to change. And that thing was, I needed to learn scripts. I had to get better at learning and practicing my scripts. Why scripts? Well, scripts allow you to fully listen to your client. Okay. Uh, Once the appointment was set, well, I started implementing, all right, well, now I need to make sure that they don't ghost me or that I'm not wasting my time waiting for an appointment that's not going to show up. So I implemented a confirmation process. Now, you guys might think like this is all normal things, but at the time, it wasn't for me. At the time, maybe it's not normal for you either. Maybe you're like, shit, maybe I should do this too. Right? Because when we are in our own business, we don't think about things like this that naturally make sense. Right? It's not until we fail and we're like, all right, what needs to change? Right? So scripts, confirming our appointments. And then the other thing that had to change was how do I structure my consultations so that way I have a higher conversion rate, right? Now, I went through a multitude of consultations and structures and all this stuff while I was trying to figure out my scripts and my confirmation strategy and all of these things. Again, all of this came from mindset. All of this came from my own personal experience, all of my failures, all of the ghosting, all of the, what are you doing, Lani, in this business? Okay. I need you to understand that scripts don't make you robotic. They free your brain so that way you can actually listen to your client. That's a huge thing right there. Because when you know how to respond, you can fully listen to your client. Okay. And that was the moment that I stopped thinking about what to say. And that's when my conversations changed. Okay. When you can stop thinking about what you're going to say, your conversations will change. Now, who has ever stopped listening to their client because an objection came up and you were too busy trying to listen? I'm sure you've been there. I've been there. I've been there multitude of times. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys about it right now, right? Um, and so as we changed from scripts to our confirmation to our buyer consult structure, the one thing that had to change in our consult so that our conversion rate could be higher was I told every single consultation, buyer or seller, doesn't matter. This is a two-way interview. And the reason why I did that is because it took the power out of their hands and it made an even playing field. And when we feel like we have an even playing field, we feel a lot more confident, right? The one thing I realized about that is that the power dynamic shifted. And when I said this was a two-way interview, whether it's a buyer or seller, what I realized is that most buyers or most sellers are hoping that you choose them to work with. See, they go out of their way to want to be that client that says, "Hey, pick me. I want to be the person that you choose to work with." And when you can shift the dynamic from, "Oh, I hope they work with me. I hope they sign with me," to them wanting you to choose them, makes all the difference, right? Um, as that changed, expectations also were aligned. Because when we set proper expectations, especially if we're choosing our clients, well, they want to know what it is that makes them seem like they are the perfect client that you want to work with. And you can do that by setting proper expectations on what it does look like to either buy or sell with you. Right? When they understand this fully and you understand this fully, it makes the transaction 1,000 times more easier. Right? It makes having to renegotiate things during the transaction that should have been understood in the first place, right? And when a client understands how they're supposed to maneuver or what they're supposed to do because these expectations have been put up front, right? Again, they chose you. They wanted you. They want to work with you. All of this is smoother. And when this is smoother and they are happy, well, guess what happens? Referrals. Referrals happen. Because here's the thing, if you liked working with them and they refer somebody else to you, well, more than likely they're going to be and resemble that type of client as well. And referrals are the one thing that we want the most, right? We all celebrate, and I know I do. I don't know about you guys, but I'll say I know that I am beyond grateful when I get a referral, right? And so with that process of being able to fully understand the overview of what you guys are looking to do, their real estate goal, right? You understand what their needs and their wants are. So you provided a lot of clarity throughout this, right? And then being able to educate them as far as what does the market do? Everything gets that much more simpler. And when everything gets that much more simpler, people just automatically want to give your name. Okay. My conversion as far as referrals from the moment I changed that went up about a third. And they're still consistent even to this day. Okay. I would say referrals are probably about a third of my business. And that means I don't have to work harder. Why? Because I do the same process every single time, no matter what. I don't care if it's a really great friend of mine or a family member. We're going to have a consultation. We're going to set proper expectations. We're going to go through the overall process, no matter what. I don't care if you bought a house, sold a house multiple times. Things change. And I need you to understand what has changed, right? And understanding, really truly understanding your client makes a huge difference. Okay. So the one thing I need you guys to understand and really ask yourself, do you see yourself as a salesperson or do you see yourself as an advisor? Because there is a difference. Which one are you? Okay. The moment clients started seeing me as an advisor instead of a salesperson was when referrals started growing without extra effort. See, that slight difference grew my business and it still sustains my business even to this day. Okay. Now, I need you guys to understand that before my vacation to Mexico or before when I first started real estate, right? I measured how many hours I worked per week. Was that right? Well, at the time, I thought it was. Okay. At the time, probably nobody could tell me any different. I'm pretty hard-headed. I like to think I know better. Uh, and I think some of us can all get stuck into that, right? I also was stuck in the constant dial-in, and I hope and pray that what I'm doing will work. So there was a lot of uncertainty. I knew that if I dialed and I knew that if I worked hours, that eventually I would get business, right? Being that I was putting in the hours, I was putting in the work, I was putting in the grind, I was putting in the hustle, right? And that's the story that we tell ourselves, right? That's what's been instilled in us. But now, with my family, with the changes, with the market shifts, with how I want to spend my life matters. And so the things that had to change were now I measure how many appointments were created, not how many hours I worked. How many appointments were created? Okay. My calendar drives my decisions. See, I have my calendar blocked out for lead generation, for working on my tech platform, for writing my blogs, for spending time with my family, for appointments, for lists and consultations. I have a calendar that I try to follow to the T. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that I follow my calendar 1000% because it's super hard, right? But what I do know is that my Calendly that is linked to my calendar is everywhere. So clients can book consultations with me on their own. I don't even have to meet them because you know why? Maybe that video said something to them. Maybe that blog spoke to them. Maybe they've been watching my social media or reading my blogs for months. And now because they've learned so much from me, they want to set an appointment. And that's where Calendly allows, linked to my calendar, allows people to set appointments. That actually happened the other day. I have a consultation at 12 o'clock today because of that. That's where we work smarter, not harder. That's where we are allowed to use the systems that are free, social media, video, blogs, all of that is a little bit of sweat equity. But if you're willing to put in the sweat equity, you're going to get the results. Okay. And then AI. I use AI. AI is in my CRMs. AI is in my lead gen. I am building an AI agent right now so that way it can take phone calls about my business, about my team, and what it is that we do. It's almost ready to launch. Okay. Now, I need you to understand that this infrastructure that I am building for my business did not start all at once. It started moment by moment, decision by decision, one thing at a time. And so, what I don't want you to do is compare your year 1 or your year 5 to my year 13. Now, if you guys have been in the business longer than me, don't compare that either. Because I've been super intentional on the way I've been building my business. Right? And maybe it's not till today that you realize that something needs to change. Right? And that change starts with one decision. And that one decision can propel you to live a whole, totally different type of life. And all it takes is one step, one thing, one day at a time. I didn't build this all at once. Okay. I had to make the conscious choice to say, you know what, I'm going to start something here today. And yes, it might cost me a transaction right now because I'm not lead generating or I'm not doing this activity. But I made the conscious choice to say, you know what, I believe in this so much that I'm willing to take this hit so that I can have this right here. And maybe you guys are not in the position to do that, and that's okay. But maybe if you can take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a half hour, and build something every single day on top of it. It doesn't have to be a full hour, a full 3 hours, a full day, a full 6 weeks. As long as you can do something a little bit at a time, it will change and it will compound. See, consistency will outbeat intensity. I need you to remember that. So every decision matters because time is the only resource we have that we don't get back. Now, I just want to say, I appreciate you guys. I know that I'm running a little bit long, but I just have a little bit left to say, okay? When you can build visibility, whether that's through video, social media, blogging, YouTube, open houses, doesn't matter. Visibility builds credibility. And what I mean by that is when you're doing your social media posts, or you're posting your open houses, or you're doing your stories, maybe you don't like to be on your face out there. Maybe you don't like to have your face on the video. That's okay. But show some kind of activities, a house tour, open house, something. Because perception is reality. And when people think that you are busy, well, people want to work with successful people. And if you're that person, well, you're going to stand out more than anybody else. Because here's the thing, you guys, I need you guys to understand that your business should support the life that you want, right? Your systems will create consistency. And so I stopped measuring how long I worked, and I started measuring what actually moves my business forward. Now, I just want to ask one more thing, you guys. What is the one thing you're going to commit to implementing? Whether that's scripts, whether that's time blocking, or creating content. What is the one thing that you can commit to for maybe the next 30 days and see how that might move your business forward? Right? Lastly, I need you to understand that the modern agent doesn't win by working more hours. They win by building a business that keeps working even when they don't. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Lani. I checked and I don't have you scheduled on the 25th.
Okay.
You're on the next week, so
Perfect.
that works.
How was this? Was it okay?
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Great information. Yeah, like I said, people just watch the recordings and listen to the podcast. But
I get it.
yeah.
I get it. 8 a.m. is early for people.
Yeah, it is. Oh, well, I appreciate you being on, and I think yeah, so the next time I have you is on March 17th.
Okay, perfect.
And yeah, I always send out an email the week before, and then I always send the graphic, and it's just to remind everybody. So
Perfect. All right. I appreciate you.
thanks. I appreciate you. You have a great day.
You too.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.